Genesis House and the Friends in Recovery podcast are proud to bring you Answering the Call, the First Responder podcast. Join your hosts, Mike the Podfather and Jersey Ed, as they address the real issues in health and wellness for first responders. From physical and mental health to relationships and work-life balance, we leave no stone unturned. Answering the Call, the First Responder podcast is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube, as well as iHeartRadio. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your friends in recovery answering the call.
Hey everybody, welcome to Answering the Call, the First Responders podcast. I am Mike Miles, the Podfather.
And I'm Jersey Ed.
Yes, and we have a special guest today, Jersey Ed.
We do. Who's that?
This beautiful woman here is...
Oh, I didn't even know somebody was sitting next to me.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Oh, my God.
I'm told to look forward. Sweet says look forward, don't look around.
Anywhere
That's
else.
right, yeah. Look forward.
So I just closed my eyes the whole
Just
show.
do your job, man.
So we're lucky to have Itea Aslanian with us today.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
Welcome,
Itea, so
Itea.
good
I
having you.
appreciate it. Thank you both.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for
everyone.
coming today. So, you know,
Real quick, sweet Podfather, I want to get a phone number out so people can leave comments about
the phone
the
number.
phone number.
What is that number?
That number is 617-379-1163. And as this show goes through, please feel free to call that number, leave a voicemail.
What's the number again?
617-379-1163. You can leave your comments, any whatever. This is going to be a kind of a very emotional show that we're going to have here. So leave, thoughts, comments, whatever on this line. We appreciate it.
Right.
Thank you.
So, full disclosure, Itea is a close friend of my oldest daughter, Michelle. I say oldest because I have two daughters. One's a little younger and one's a little older. And I've known Itea for many years, and she's a wonderful lady and
Thank you.
very brave and strong. And she has a story to tell about her daughter, Anna. And you have how many children?
4.
Wow.
4 children.
3 boys, 1 girl.
Yeah.
So,
And how old are the boys?
we have a set of twins
Yeah.
that are 11, and we have a 15-year-old, and Anna was 16.
Right.
Yes.
Tell us about Anna.
Anna, our daughter, she was a sophomore at Lowell High School. It sounds so cliche, but honestly, the truth, beautiful, smart, kind, just full of life, really. Very creative with different things. She loved makeup. She was involved in sports. She loved to help people in different ways. Always made everybody laugh, was always laughing herself. She had turned 16 on October 17th, and she took her own life on October 30th. So we are still a little over a year into it, trying to understand things, trying to kind of wrap our arms around the whys and really just trying to understand thought processes, which I don't know that you ever do or will. So it's been a difficult time.
When just the funeral, the wake,
Yes.
I was I was one of many people that attended both. I saw nothing but strength and just very heroic and stoic. It was just amazing. Where did that strength come from? I mean, how did you get through that?
So many people have asked me that question, and I try so hard not to get emotional, which is very difficult not to.
Please.
I think the biggest thing is our daughter had a story to tell. I think that for whatever the reason, she wasn't able to do that. I think that Anna bottled up a lot of emotions. I think that she had many things going on, many things that had happened to her, throughout a couple of year span that really influenced her in a negative way.
And she kept those to herself.
Very much to herself.
That's the tough part. That's
It is. And so I think that just really created this large cloud around her of a low self-worth, low self-esteem. And she wasn't able to say a lot of things, that have kind of surfaced. And so I think that strength comes from there has to be somebody to be able to do that for her. There has to be, and I use justice in kind of a flexible word of saying justice in the sense of people knowing that it's not okay to treat people certain ways. Again, cliche, right? You never know what anybody is thinking or feeling until they tell you or you're aware of it. So that's kind of how it was for Anna. She didn't really talk about much. Are you okay? Are you, and generally I would say 99% of the time she was laughing, smiling,
Right.
always engaged, with friends, with her family.
Right. She wasn't a girl that isolated. She didn't stay home. And She was out in the
No.
a lot of friends.
A lot
tell
of
us
friends.
about the girl, the girl that grew up that you knew that before this dark situation took over.
It's really it's an amazing piece to me because people will say to me, if you knew then what you know now, would things be different? And I say no, because that girl was smiling every single day. She got up, joking and laughing, and we would do things together. We would do things, as a family. We would do things with friends. And so there was always that constant interaction where I would always see her. She would always be around her brothers. She would always be, in or around the house.
Just a happy kid growing up.
Very, very, very happy. And I know typical teens, right? They have their highs and lows. And yes, she had those, which I think back to when I was that age, and it was very similar. I look at peers of hers now, and it's the same behaviors that you kind of just say, oh, these are normal behaviors. But Anna was I would have to say, very what appeared to be happy girl with
Outgoing.
her life.
Yep.
Very outgoing.
Very athletic.
Athletic, social.
And beautiful girl. We were looking at her.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Extremely beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm her mom, so of course I think
Yeah,
that.
of course,
But,
of course.
Anna was just even on the inside, just very loving. And it is interesting to me because she would say to me, friends come to me and I feel bad and I try to say this and I try to help them through that. And so I find that dynamic interesting that, there's so much going out to help, but yet.
She was helping all her friends with their problems and,
But couldn't help herself.
Right. Do you think she, of course, there's so much more to this, but do you think, I tell you, do you think that Anna wanted to tell you or didn't want to? I mean, how have you processed the fact that she didn't come and say, Ma, I'm really depressed. I'm really anxious about this. Obviously, you would have bent over backwards to solve her problems, but
really the whole family was. My family is very close. My parents are very involved. She had a very close relationship with my parents. I don't know. I think that's something that I'm trying to kind of work through right now. Anna was a very, she was like a lockbox. She really didn't talk much about feelings.
Welcome to every teenage girl's life.
And it's so true. And I have
yeah.
so many people ask me now, and it is, I'm grateful for it. Like I say it all the time. If I can help just one person, then I feel better. But I have parents that say to me, my child is acting this way. Is this a sign? And I say, it's so difficult because we look at these behaviors and they're so typical of adolescent behaviors that it's a hard thing to, say, well, nope, this is, depression or, this is a typical teen behavior. And I just try to say you have to be so in their business and so intrusive, there's no other option. And, like I said, we were always home together, always around each other. But for us, Anna never displayed anything that was, nothing that was concerning, all very typical teen behaviors. So that's a difficult thing because you automatically, you say there should have been a red flag and, you must have seen something. And I there's really nothing. And I've had these conversations with my parents, even with friends. And her friends have repeatedly said, we had no idea. We didn't know she was feeling this way. So it's a hard thing. I'm in the process of still trying to.
A good friend of ours, Mike, Jeff Zazel, a couple shows ago, he said that it was something about suicide and people jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge, and a couple of people survived, and they said that, like, thinking halfway through what they did, it was a bad decision. So one bad decision is it's it just you're just thinking gets skewed. You're not a bad person, or you're not thinking like this all the time.
Right.
You just try to make that one decision. You think it's going to help, and I'm guessing halfway through it, it's probably not the right decision that anybody can make. And
I'm sure
but it leads up to what you're going through today. Unfortunately, but I always look at a silver lining to every cloud. Look
Right.
what you're doing. You're advocating for her. You just said, if I can just help one person.
Yes.
You know what? I don't believe that. Help thousands of people, and
Right.
that's what you're doing here.
And
And when you go on and just
you.
don't limit yourself to one. Help thousands, because you have a more. And I'd like to hear more of it. But
Yes.
it's compelling, and from what Mike's been telling me, just been amazing, amazing story of her life. You know what I mean? And
Thank
celebrate her life.
You found a letter.
Yes.
I don't know how many weeks afterwards, but could you talk a little bit about that if it's not too painful?
Yes, I can. No, absolutely. I think this is a really important piece of it all. After she had passed, we tore the house upside down. We tore the backyard upside down, inside out, looking for anything, because we were so blindsided by what had occurred. You kind of sit there and you're left with this horrific, thing, and you don't know what to do with it, because there's no reason for it. There were no signs. And so we spent probably, I'd say, at least a week looking for anything, and we found nothing. And I want to say about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks after it happened, I was in her room, and we tore her room apart, everywhere. And I happened to be laying on her bed and just thinking about things. And she had 3 pictures up on her wall that were kind of deep. If you hang them up, they got a deep backing. And so I don't know what it was. I got up and I started looking at the pictures, and I flipped one over, and she had several birthday cards behind one photo. And it was just that gut-wrenching feeling. What is going to be behind this next frame that I flip over? And when I did, I saw the white lined paper facing the back. And so she had left a 6-page letter, basically putting it all out there. So very painful. Very painful as a parent, very painful, I think, to anybody around her. That for anybody that, you love so much, to even begin to grasp the pain. And I often, the more I go through this process, the more people I meet that have experienced this in one way or another. And I just come back to the same thing. It is so heartbreaking to even imagine that somebody can be in that much pain. For me to even begin to think about the amount of pain, I kind of have to pull myself out, because it's awful. It's very painful.
Now, I tell you, the content of the letter, we don't need to know about it, but did it clear anything up? Did it make anything a little bit easier? Did it, did it help out? We never want to read those letters. We don't want anybody ever writing those letters. We want to get help. Matter of fact, we'll flash up the suicide hotline number.
Yes.
It's always in our show notes all the time. Excuse me.
Yes.
And so reach out to that 800 number before you even write a note and get it straightened out. But unfortunately, you're on the other side now.
Yes.
And did it clear up anything, or did it make things worse, or
I think it did a little bit of both.
Okay.
I think, as I mentioned previously, it's that pain that you feel, for somebody, your own child, to kind of almost, it's like being hit by a freight train. You had no idea that these feelings were even going on. Anna had mentioned in her letter, which is so disheartening, that she basically feels that she had been suffering from depression for 4 years. She felt that was brought on by severe bullying and body shaming that started in 7th grade. Making references to individuals telling her that she should be smaller and that she was fat, and, friends that she thought were close that ended up joining in, and contributing to these behaviors.
Did it mention friends' names? I didn't mean to interrupt.
It alluded to several specific people, yes. Yes.
And just please go on, yep.
Yes. So basically, Anna had written, people don't realize how much of an impact they can have on somebody. And her direct quote was, "Words hit harder than a fist." She basically said that I look at myself now and I see nothing. All I see is fat and ugly. And I realize that no matter where I go or what I have or, you know, where I am, I'm still going to be the same fat, ugly, depressed Anna Aslanian. And it's heartbreaking.
Heart-wrenching.
It is.
You know, negative thoughts are horrible. You know, even when we get them in our minds, and you know, the minute we get them in our minds, we really have to get rid of them. And unfortunately, a 16-year-old girl, a 10-year-old girl, even a boy or whatever, may not have that capability of doing that. Right. The minute these thoughts come into your head, you have to. I mean, she's a beautiful girl. I mean, you know, I'm sure. I mean, I've known you only the last hour or so, but it seems like she had a great parent. But that's what these negative thoughts can do to you. You know, you got to get, and especially then when they come from the outside world. And this is what could happen. So you know, we encourage everybody get rid of those negative thoughts, and you're definitely, you know, here to help us with that.
Absolutely.
Real quick, we're going to take a break here, but I want everybody's thoughts on what was just brought up, and some of their thoughts on the voicemail, the hotline number at 617-379-1163. And we will be sharing these with you, Itea, and passing them along to you. Maybe you can post them up or whatever, and we can get this community going and kind of understanding what's going on.
That would be great.
So answering the call, we're here with Jersey Ed, the Podfather, and Itea Aslanian. We'll be back.
Thank you.
Since 1992, Genesis House has been helping real people heal from addiction on their private recovery campus in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. Their family-owned program is accredited by the Joint Commission and offers detox and dual diagnosis treatment in a comfortable and confidential setting. The First Responder Recovery Program at Genesis House is led by a doctorate-level therapist with direct professional experience as a first responder himself. Treatment modalities focus on psychiatric care, relapse prevention, stress management, and trauma-informed care for PTSD. Learn why their individualized approach makes a difference for first responders. Call Genesis House today at 1-800-737-0933 to speak with someone who understands. Visit them on the web at www.genesishouse.net. It's time to start your journey to a long and successful recovery.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. Answering the Call, podcast for first responders, or the First Responders podcast. I apologize. I am the Podfather, Mike Miles.
I'm Jersey Ed.
And we're here with a lovely guest, Itea Aslanian.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming today.
Thanks, Itea.
Jersey Ed, did you have some podcast pick of the week?
I do have a podcast pick of the week, so we're going to give it a drum roll.
Let's get another drum. This probably deserves two drum rolls.
There you go. Jersey Ed's podcast pick of the week is Pragmatic Paramedics, hosted by Aaron and Jason. It's a podcast about two medics with a desire to talk about topics pertinent to EMS and the paramedic field. No topic is off the table, so grab a cup of coffee and get chatting with Aaron and Jason, the Pragmatic Medics.
So it's like coffee talk with
coffee.
Who is it with again?
Coffee talk. The Pragmatic Paramedics.
Right,
it's a tongue twister.
I'm
with
just
Aaron
gonna
and Jason.
All right, I'm just gonna interpret that for our Boston fans. That's coffee talk, right? And not coffee talk.
Coffee talk.
Coffee talk.
Yes, it's a good podcast. So get into it and let us know what your thoughts are at 617-379-1163. And of course, we're back here with Itea, and please leave comments that we will share those comments with her. Email us at helpatfriendsandrecoverypodcast.com. And also, we want to thank Taylor for providing this wonderful show today, and Genesis House for letting us get this message out. Right. And of course, our first responders out there. This is ATC, the First Responders Show, and we want to help you guys out. Suicide, whatever it is, the 800 number for the suicide will be either flashing up or in our show notes. And this is a perfect example why you call that number and not take the action, because you're going to listen to Itea's story about finishing it up, and you can cause a lot of grief, unfortunately. So it's easier to make that phone call than everything that we have to go through on the back end of things.
Right.
Yes.
And I know I speak for everybody here. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Itea.
Thank you.
I can't imagine, the strength that you have to be able to do this, and it just means a lot to us, and it will mean a lot to a lot of people. And so
I appreciate it. Thank you.
We appreciate you. Before we took a break, we were talking about the letter you found, and
Yes.
some of the dynamics as a result of that letter and things that have happened. But you had shared something during the break about getting up every morning, and you take it from there, and word for word, verbatim, if you can.
Pardon my swearing. It really is. I had mentioned earlier, people, I get approached and they say, what can we do? What is the next thing? And honestly, it's been a day-to-day thing. I was sharing, I literally get out of bed in the morning, try to take a deep breath. I sit at the edge of my bed and I look around, and I will just sit there and say out loud, what the fuck? What is going on? Because it feels so surreal, and it's like Groundhog Day every day. You're living Groundhog Day. It's over and over.
Horrible.
It is. It's just the same scenario every day, and you try, I try to get up, and once I get through the what the fuck is going on, which that I say that at least 500 times a day, but you do try to kind of move things in a positive direction and try to say, what can I do at this point? What would Anna want me to do? And she did mention that in her letter, that she hoped that by writing this letter that it would allow people to understand that they need to be nicer to each other. She had hoped that people would be kind and understanding, because you never know how somebody is feeling on the inside. So I feel that's really my driving force at this point. She's not here to share those words, and I feel strongly if she wrote them down, she wanted people to hear them.
Sure.
She wanted people to know.
Yeah.
And there's been some events you can tell the audience about.
Yes.
And you can fill us in,
all
too.
the good stuff that came
Yeah,
out of this
it's-
tragedy. There's a lot of good things going on.
There are. And first of all, I can't thank people enough for their love and their support. Our community has been incredibly amazing. People like you, all of you that help support this cause. And we, last year was our first year. We did an Out of the Darkness walk, which is for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And they do an annual walk. Last year we did it in Boston. We had an awesome team. We raised a little over $20,000 for suicide awareness and prevention. So we were very excited about that. Our team name is Anna's Story. We are going to do it again this year. It's in New York City.
When is that?
So this is a national thing.
This is
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
So it's June 20th.
So your team raised just $20,000.
Yes.
Wow, that's incredible.
And the even more incredible piece of that is a majority of that team were Anna's friends. So these are 15 and 16-year-old girls that raised over $5,000.
Not to interrupt you,
amazing.
but
Yes.
Lowell and Greater Lowell, and I say this from experience,
Yes.
amazing society.
Incredible.
Incredible. I had 5 friends died in a plane crash. One of them was your neighbor, next door neighbor,
Yes.
Stephen Smith.
Yes.
And the money we raised in 2 days, we raised over $120,000, and we gave families, money along the way. But
Right.
I just want to say, I cannot, as a police officer that worked in the city of Lowell and have been part of the Greater Lowell community for my whole life, amazing community input,
really
isn't
is.
it? Isn't it amazing?
It is, and I could never thank people enough for what they've done just to it goes as, up to a phone call, from a phone call to
Right.
bringing food by to, it was incredibly amazing. A good friend of ours had kind of put together this little foundation for our family and gave us many people contributed, but it was a stack that was worth almost $6,000 worth
God.
of gift cards to Stop and Shop
my
for
God.
us to food shop, so we wouldn't have to worry about cooking and whatnot. So the community around us, I could never thank them enough.
So I tell you, how can people get involved with the national or even Anna's cause? How can
Yes.
And of course we'll post it all on our show notes, so make sure you go through the show notes.
Yes.
Also afterwards, but if you can just tell us how we can get in touch or see or whatever.
Definitely. So there are several things that we're doing right now. We are doing the walk again, as I mentioned. That is June 20th in New York. You can donate to the page if you want to join our team. It's Anna's story. Obviously, everyone is welcome, and we love it. If you'd like to donate, you can go to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention's Out of the Darkness Walk page and look under Anna's story, and you can make a donation there. It is one of the highly rated associations where so many proceeds go to, a lot goes to administrative costs and so forth. But this foundation, brunt of their money raised goes to specifically helping individuals in these types of situations. So I try to do a lot of research on, where we kind of wanted to start with that. So if you can, please visit that page. Also, we are going to be doing a fundraiser for her in September, and that's going to be at the the Olympia restaurant in Lowell, Massachusetts. And
Great food.
Amazing food. And
Mike, you bought me a sandwich there from one time.
Yes, it's great food, really nice atmosphere. So we basically rented out the large hall there to do hold this fundraiser for her. In moving forward with that, we're going to create a scholarship fund for her. So we're in the process right now of building that foundation from the ground up, kind of picking, we'd like it to go to a school, to a specific, category. Anna loved makeup. She loved makeup and animals. Her love for both, very passionate.
Sounds like Ed.
It's a good combination. So, please come visit us. That will be in September. So, once we have all of the details, we'll put that out there too. I am in the process. My mom, I have to say this. She's been amazing. She's been very proactive, getting herself out there, getting herself in front of school committee meetings, school council.
Strong woman.
Very strong.
Amazing.
She's amazing. I look at her every day and I think if I can have half of that strength, it's
no, you do.
Thank you. But she's getting out there. She, talked to the superintendent of schools last week and had a meeting with him about implementing some type of bullying awareness program in our public schools.
I hope he follows through on it.
I hope so too. I really do. And for my mom and I, we want to start talking in schools, talking about awareness and the effects that these types of behaviors have. Again, it's a tricky, it's a hard age, but I do believe that know your limitations.
I'm glad you're going to the schools with this.
Yes.
I think Chris and I were talking about, Chris Cuddy, he was on our last show.
Yes.
We were talking about education. Education is so important.
So important.
For drugs and alcohol, because we do another show, Friends in Recovery, the addiction podcast.
Yes.
And suicide and bullying. I believe that there should be, from kindergarten all the way through, a class, not just just here and there, have the DARE officer come in and talk about everything. It should be a class it's an ongoing class that they go to learn all this stuff.
Right.
Yes.
Will it stop it? No, but it'll cut a lot of this out.
Absolutely.
It'll give them options where to go. It'll make them understand that they can talk about stuff like this, and maybe stop some of these kids from bullying, because some of these kids don't even know that they're bullying at anybody. It's just it's fun. Everybody's noticing me because I'm saying he has long hair, or his eyes closed, or she walks with a limp, and it doesn't know that it kills our fucking kids.
It doesn't. And I think I've tried so hard. Our whole family has tried to really instill in our children, a lot of the times, if not every time, that somebody is being shitty to you, it's not about you. It's about deflecting. It's about them. And we really tried to stress that, because nobody treats somebody that badly unless there's some type of internal struggle.
The other thing too, my wife had I think she had it on her Facebook page, or she sent. Yes, I'm on Facebook now, so I can I can see stuff. She had a picture of a cartoon of a little kid, two little kids, and then the mom or dad or whatever behind her, with the mom's tongue sticking out through the kid's head, pointing it at the other kid. So it's also the parents that we see. So if we even educate these kids younger, that may stop it way through the parenting. So I've seen Sweets. You're shaking your head over there. What's your thoughts on all this, Sweets?
I mean, we are a direct reflection of what our parents teach us and the environment that we grow up in, and the way that our parents see people and talk about them. And you fail to recognize just how impactful your words are. Like when you're driving in the car and you're in the front seat and the kids are in the back and they see you swearing because you got road rage, or they hear you talking about coworkers and saying nasty things about people. Kids pick up on that, and they reflect that. Yes. They reflect the worst part of us sometimes, and we don't even know it.
Very true. I was actually sharing a story earlier. What I face some days, I just sit and I think, it can't be real. I had a parent, sit in front of me and say, and it was one that was questionable of how, he had treated our daughter. And the parent said, he said that she was fat. That's all he said, that she was fat. And then and we were sitting in my home, mind you. And then she looked at me and she said, but let's be real, your daughter was fat. She was a fat girl.
Oh, unbelievable.
And I thought, it's just, I don't get it. I don't.
Ignorance is bliss. Believe me.
It is.
And even me as an adult, I have two of my best friends are gay. They live across the street from me, and I even say, don't be so fucking gay. You know what I mean? And not realizing that there is gay people out there that can offend somebody. You know what I mean? And this offending people stuff, it really does hurt people. Obviously, you've seen that unfortunately firsthand.
Yes.
Even saying something stupid like that, and I mean nothing by it, but we don't know what that person's going through. We don't know when we're directing it to somebody what he or she's going through, or their mindset, or where they're at in their their mental health state. Also,
Yes.
So be careful of your tongue.
Absolutely.
What's the saying in AA, Mike? Restraint of pen and tongue.
Right.
You really have to think of your words. Your words are fucking powerful, man. They're really powerful, and they can cause somebody to do exactly what your daughter did, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
Hey, before we close up, I just want to. How are you? You have 3 beautiful sons.
Thank you.
And I ran into Josh and 2 of your sons a couple weeks ago. And how are they? How are you boys doing?
Coping.
Yeah, and Josh.
Coping. Every day is a struggle. The most important thing that we all focus on are the 3 boys, and making sure that they're up and they're doing what they need to do, and they're supported and they're loved and they're moving in the right direction. And that's really the focal point. And then really just trying to cope with the loss and the sadness. And it's very difficult because, it's something where it's as simple as driving in the car and you're fine, and then walking through the supermarket and you're having a nervous breakdown. So it's minute to minute. It's just learning how to cope and how to get through it the best way you can.
So I tell you, we'd love to have you come back and check in with us in a bit,
you.
in a couple weeks or a month or so. Just come back, see where you're at, and whatever we can do here, with Sweet Studio, we're going to be part of anything that we can be.
Yeah, and
It's
be
my
sure
pleasure.
be sure to check the show notes. All this information is going to be up on there, and I'm sure there's more information that we can even put up there. And we'll get it all out there, and just and also please share this show. It'll help somebody. In our first responder world, there's a lot of suicide going on, and these guys are really in tune with this. And this is something that's probably going to hit a lot of our first responders, and they'll get this word out to just help save thousands and millions of people, not just one.
Right.
Yeah, and for the past 2 years, we've been doing podcasts here at Jersey Ed and myself, and this has got to be, without a doubt, probably the most important podcast that I've been involved in.
Thank you.
And I just want to thank you for your strength, your wisdom, your graciousness to come on and share Anna's story.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
so
you.
much.
And in the words of Anna, just be kind.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Stay safe, everybody.
Thank you.
That concludes this episode of Answering the Call, the First Responder Podcast. Thanks to Genesis House for sponsoring the show and supporting first responders who are struggling with addiction and mental health. Follow us on Facebook for past shows and updates. If you are interested in being a guest on the show, email us at help@friendsandrecoverypodcast.com.